Hello, I'm Keeners. I'm an artist, aspiring game dev based in Melbourne, and I participate in the Cosmic Horrors Jam 3. This game jam takes place over the course of 14 days, where I get to balance life, uni, making this video game, and all while being 4 days late to the jam. A game jam is a contest anyone can join, where the host provides a theme and a time limit for all participants to follow. During the jam, developers will then make a game following the rules and submit it. After the submission period, there's a voting period where people can play, rank, and give advice on each other's games. I've had experience doing game jams in the past, but I wanted to make something a bit bigger than usual. The theme for this game jam was Lovecraftian horror. This is an annual Halloween jam that always follows the same main theme, but comes with a list of optional secondary themes. This one is more broad than your average jam, which makes it more challenging for me as I typically find ideas faster with the constraints. I usually start out the projects that I end up sticking to by coming up with ideas in MS Paint. I don't expect to refine the art or even make a decent composition, just something taken out of my head and onto the canvas that's readable. My first idea was a fishing game. Eldritch horror is based on the unfathomable, so I figured you'd get these silhouettes of monsters you'll be trying to catch. But as much as fishing games rock, and I'd love to make one, this doesn't seem all that special. And though I do love the game Fishing Vacation, I just don't think I could make something as good and original from this idea. The next idea was an RPG horror game where the art style would have this tilted angle. Everything would have depth but be rendered in 2D. I planned to make the game in Game Maker since at the time I was only starting to learn Unity. I still saw it as far too outside my comfort zone despite doing some projects in it. As I said, since it would be in a 2D game engine, I'd have to mimic the effects of a tilted 3D environment by changing the sizes of sprites based on where they are in the room. I had quite a bit of trouble with this, so I had to create art with lots of objects at different angles, and the way you move around would be tricky to calculate since to move up and down, you'd actually be moving at a slight angle based on your X position. I was quick to strike this out since it's a whole lot of added work for such a short deadline. I ended up going with a simplified 2D top-down style where the camera is technically above you, but you only see one side of all the objects. It's kind of an obvious direction to take a 2D game, but it's still a decision I had to make. I went with the setting of an apartment building because I loved the idea of going through halls of monsters and constantly weighing the risk of choosing between going through them and clearing a floor or trying to survive a fall out of a window at the height you're at now. I really liked the idea of having some middle-aged guy as the main character, and I quickly started to like him and his scruggly little face, which made me really want to take the story in a different direction. I wanted to make the game about this guy's life getting better. So what if the Lovecraftian horrors were tenants to your building and you're their landlord? It's interesting because the power dynamic is swapped around between you and the monsters. Only problem is, while in the middle of a housing and cost of living crisis, I probably wouldn't care too much about the struggles of someone who's exclusively a landlord, no matter how sad and pathetic they might be. So they're a co-landlord who's constantly belittled by the main one. Where the other one wants to jack up prices despite being well off and not needing to do so, you want to make sure the environments and homes of your tenants are taken care of. This continues to happen when the tenants also improve your life and there's a sense of community. I really liked this idea because I could make the game with as few characters as possible and just add more content on top with however much time I had left to avoid scope creep. Ages ago, I was inspired by the portraits in Darkwood and how they obscure a bunch of the character, leaving them to your imagination. And so I did some portrait ideas of my own based on it. Each of these random portraits were characters from different No Sleep stories I liked. I loved to listen to them, and they still managed to end up inspiring a few things in this game. I took the art style from this art that I had tucked away and done nothing with for years, and did the designs one at a time whenever I wanted a new character. Here they are now. I'm really happy with the style it's got because it's hard to trace it back to Darkwood, and it's clearly inspired and not directly based on it. To make the game's story a bit simpler to manage, I divided it between 3 days, where you have different tasks that are sprung onto you. Each of these days are supposed to bring a little of much needed direction, meaning, or catharsis to the main character's life. I used the color palette to make slightly different variations between the rooms and apartments to make exploring them a bit more interesting and easy to discern. I even included some in-game cutscenes and events that broke up the gameplay to keep it a bit more visually interesting. It was tricky balancing a 10-day project and university, but I'm studying game design, so my teachers loved seeing my progress and encouraged me. They playtested and gave advice such as the apartment numbers appearing when you approach doorways and adding comments about negative gearing from the landlord. Even suggesting that when you try to give this elder god a job, to look into getting them into musical theatre since it looks like they're doing jazz hands on their sprite. I also included a dialogue box tutorial that I had used and adjusted to fit my game in the description. It's amazingly flexible and really well done, gave amazing results, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm going to walk you through the game now. Just skip to this timestamp if you'd like to play it yourself. There's a link in the description to where you can download it. The game starts with you staring into the mirror, noticing that there's a green dot in your eye and that you're miserable. You go out your apartment and find a package at your door from someone interested in moving in. Someone who doesn't quite have a grasp on the vocabulary of words that refer to yourself. Putting that aside, you go upstairs to your meeting. You find the co-landlord in his humble abode, talking about raising the price of rent an enormous amount for the one person that they're aware that lives there. You try to talk them out of it, but it goes nowhere, and you end up leaving the package on their desk and walking out. On your way back to your monotonous life, you walk into some kind of monster. You've never seen anything like this before. They ask if you can do something about the noise from room 203, since their kids are coming over this weekend. Upon reaching what you thought to be an empty room 203, you find a poltergeist screeching. After talking to them, you find the root of the issue, being that they want to kill someone inside the TV but can't touch them. You kindly offer to smash the TV for them and hesitantly start whacking it with a bat. While smashing the TV, you find small catharsis, realizing how much you've been repressing your feelings and unable to take initiative in your daily life. You have a short conversation with the poltergeist, who's no longer seeking blood, about your feelings, and they kind of respect you for understanding them and learning to do so from this experience. After all, that's a poltergeist type struggle. Checking in with the alligator, that's what they're called. They thank you and you say that you need to have a rest since you haven't done anything like that before and you haven't had a conversation lately. And that's just a whole lot of energy spent. Before you go to bed, you look in the mirror, talking yourself into taking charge in your life. But all of a sudden the green dot starts to get bigger and it starts to fall out. It's a centipede, some kind of centipede. You faint. The next day there's nothing in your eye, and you go to the co-landlord's office to give him a piece of your mind, but something is different. He's got mushrooms in his head. It's revealed that the parcel from the tenant looking to move in contained a spore of a hive mind entity called the Shroom Lord, and they've now possessed the co-landlord's body. They would like to stay in the building and ask if they should pay rent for the room and the body. The decisions are now up to you, since the landlord's consciousness is mixed with a billion others. As the one who calls the shots, you tell them the body is free and that's accessibility needs, and it will be covered on your end. The Shroom Lord reports to you that you received another offer to move in. With your newfound ability to see these residents, you'll need to find an empty room. You've already met everyone on the second and third floors, so that just leaves the bottom floor, where you meet the Heart, the Moon Children, the Future Thing, and in the last room to be checked, you enter and summon a banished elder god and their dog thing, using the rental agreement as the contract that binds them to the plane of existence. The elder god, the Beholder, talks to you in an old dialect since it's been thousands of years since they were banished. Halfway through though, they talk present day English because it just got too much for the sake of me probably misusing the words. Just so much work for what? So that no one could understand what they were saying? Yeah, no. But as I was saying, you try to help them find a job when they have no background or experience, and find a job doing some gardening. For this information, I just went on job seeking sites with a fake profile just to see what would come up for them. Afterwards, you go back and introduce yourself to the other new tenants that aren't multidimensional and just using the buildings to store their organs in a secure environment. On the last day, you can go check in on the Beholder, who got fired for making a homunculus out of plants because of an honest misunderstanding. After this, you decide not to charge them rent since they can't provide for themselves and don't like the idea of holding that kind of power over them. And that's the end. You end up supporting these creatures and giving them homes and resolving issues and disputes in your community that you are in charge of. In doing so, find purpose. And on the second and third day, if you happen to go into the alligator or Oz room, you can see the kids. I do admit the dialogue is dry and the story is rushed, but I took a lot into account to make the game clear for where to go, outside of visual designs for each room having different colors and room numbers appearing. I also had the player start each day by going to visit the landlord on the first and second days, where on the third day they don't need to, but talking to the landlord or talking to yourself in the mirror directs you to where you need to go. The name I went with for the game was Apartment Complex, which I think is very clear because it's not only set in an apartment complex, but the main character has a complex involving the apartment complex. One might call it an apartment complex. The game's no longer big, but I put a lot of work into it and it's way bigger than any game I've made before. Since starting the game, I always thought an interesting direction to take the game would to be making it into a silly Animal Crossing type game where you manage your residents who come in and out. Maybe there's a cafeteria floor where you have residents and special traveling NPCs go. Maybe there could also be some customization options for your character in the rooms to increase the odds of getting certain characters. Another idea I had was Charming Fates, where it's like a mushroom garden, and you feed these statues with random items and they bring you a new character depending on the combination, making it practically impossible to know what to expect. That said, that was all completely outside the scope of the jam, and I currently have other projects on my mind, and I'd rather do those than taking it further. Had I taken it further, the Shroom Lord could act as a manager for your little Eldritch building. Maybe you could get some kind of Eldritch god to make the building bigger. I also made a post on itch.io of some lore for each character that I couldn't include in the game. I'll leave that in the description as well, but it's just an extra couple sentences for each of them. I ended up managing to tie for 9th out of 135 submissions in the game jam, which I'm super proud of. I got a lot of compliments and advice. Some people found some bugs, thankfully nothing groundbreaking. Oh wait, never mind. Yeah, okay, that kind of messes things up. There were a lot of other really amazing games in this jam. Some that stick out to me are The Library That Speaks, where you go on this investigative journey in this subliminal library where kids have been missing for years, and you have to search for them and fight this thing that has kind of hunted the kids down and possessed them, beating the bosses to release their souls. Prioratu has this insane art style, and I've never seen anything like it before. It's amazing, and I couldn't agree more with it taking the #1 rating in visuals. And Halls of Madness, a resource managing game where you use your flashlight to protect yourself from enemies getting harder the further you descend through the levels. The jam was amazing, and I'm so proud of the game since it's a big step in the direction of games I want to make. Even though the writing isn't amazing, I even managed to get into the Indie-Pocalypse zine, which was a goal of mine for a really long time. Collecting these screenshots only makes me now realize that it's been a goal for 4 years. Oh my gosh. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This is my first time making a YouTube devlog, but I'd love to continue making them for more projects in the future. Maybe some more game jams, maybe some bigger projects. I have no idea. But I'd appreciate any kind of support such as liking and subscribing. That said, even watching to the end of this video is so wonderful. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day.